Once upon a cold night, Emily got lost in a forest. Her phone was dead, and only the moonlight could be seen through the thick trees. She found an old, broken-down cabin. It seemed empty, but a flickering light inside made her knock on the door. To her surprise, an old lady opened the door, with bright eyes for her age. "Lost, are you? Come in," she said. Inside, the cabin was full of old things, dusty books, and strange jars. The lady gave Emily some tea, which she was unsure about, but drank. While sipping tea, Emily saw a strange painting of a young woman who looked a lot like her, scared in a forest. The old lady noticed and chuckled. "I like to paint the future." Emily got scared and tried to leave, but the tea had made her weak. The old lady smiled with creepy red eyes. "Don't worry. You won't be lost anymore. You'll be in my collection." As Emily's sight faded, she saw the old lady pick up a brush to finish the painting. As Emily's consciousness wavered, she felt herself being guided towards a room at the back of the cabin. The room was filled with more paintings, all depicting people trapped in various landscapes, their expressions etched with despair or terror. When the old woman left the room, presumably to wash her paintbrushes, Emily used the last ounce of her strength to reach into her pocket. Her fingers grazed a small pocket knife she always carried. With a Herculean effort, she managed to cut a small piece of rope that dangled from a shelf, filled with more jars of unidentifiable contents. Using the rope, she bound her hands in a way that would look secure, but could be easily slipped out of. She then pretended to be unconscious as the old woman returned. "Ah, you'll make a fine addition," the woman murmured, lifting her brush once again. Emily waited, her heart pounding in her chest. When the old woman turned her back to dip her brush into the paint, Emily slipped her hands free and lunged for the door. Bursting out of the room, she ran through the cabin and out the front door. Her legs felt weak, but adrenaline propelled her forward. Behind her, she heard a guttural scream, inhuman, filled with a rage that shook the forest itself. Emily didn't dare look back. She kept running, fueled by pure survival instinct, until she stumbled upon a road. A car approached, and she waved it down, collapsing into the arms of the startled driver. The police were called, but when they arrived at the cabin, it was empty. The paintings were gone, and so was the old woman. For years, Emily was haunted by the incident. She moved to a city, far away from any forests, but she could never shake the feeling that she was being watched. Then one day, she received a package with no return address. Inside was a painting. It showed her, safe, but forever looking over her shoulder, trapped in an urban jungle. She knew she had escaped the cabin, but the old woman's words echoed in her mind. "I like to paint the future, my dear." And so, Emily understood that some horrors are not confined by walls or woods. They follow you, lurking in the corners of your life, forever captured in the strokes of a cursed brush. Of course, despite the haunting painting, Emily decided she couldn't live her life in fear. She became an art therapist, hoping to use art to heal others, even if she couldn't entirely heal herself. Years passed, and the memory of the cabin the old woman became more like a disturbing dream, blurring at the edges. One day, Emily was volunteering at a children's hospital when a little girl named Lily showed her a drawing. It depicted an elderly woman with glowing red eyes, standing in a forest. The similarities to her own experience were too shocking to ignore. "Who is this?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "It's the lady from my dream. She says she likes to paint the future," Lily replied innocently. A chill ran down Emily's spine. She knew she had to confront this haunting once and for all. Armed with determination and years of unresolved trauma, she decided to revisit the forest where she had found the old cabin. When she reached the spot, all that remained was the charred remains of a building, burned down according to local lore many years ago. Just as she was about to turn back, defeated, she spotted something half buried in the ground. A paintbrush with an intricately carved handle. As Emily touched the brush, memories flooded her mind. Memories that weren't her own. She saw faces of people she didn't recognize, landscapes she'd never visited, all suffused with a feeling of malevolence. Then she realized this was the old woman's brush, and she was seeing fragments of lives the woman had painted, had altered, or even destroyed. Summoning every ounce of courage, Emily snapped the brush in two. As she did, a scream echoed through the forest, so loud it seemed to come from the trees themselves. When it was over, Emily felt an inexplicable sense of relief wash over her. Weeks later, Lily told her that she'd stopped having nightmares about the old woman. Emily smiled, but kept the story of the broken paintbrush to herself. She knew some horrors were too terrifying to share, but for the first time in years, she felt truly free. She hung up her own painting in her living room, a peaceful landscape devoid of people, but full of light and color. Emily understood that sometimes the most powerful way to control your future is to paint it yourself in hues of courage, resilience, and hope. The end.